And Ryan was talking historical because we were led down that path with everyone in the live chat. But I'll add this on that I'm running through the various conferences and I'm doing an all-time program rankings. So I have created 10 criteria, given them various weights, and I have posted the Pac-12. So there you go. And the Big 12 thus far. And we're going through each conference. So what's interesting about the Pac-12 is, I'm not unveiling any secrets here to prohibit or deter anyone from watching my video when I say USC's number one in the Pac-12 in just about every, in every category. So I went through 10 categories and USC's number one. So that's the disclaimer. You can still watch the video, but it's interesting because other schools, of course, had their time. And for Oregon, that was pretty spotty. And then here in the last 12 to 15 years, it's been arguably the best program in the conference. So that has lifted those all-time numbers pretty significantly.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, you got to respect USC. I think it's kind of overplayed a little bit, the hatred that we have in college football or whatever. I come from the sportsmanship side of it. I really respect USC. What they do down there is very unique. They have fallen on hard times, and Oregon has taken advantage of it. This is facts. And going down there and beating USC is incredibly sweet. I mean, the Beavs, just put it this way, the Beavs beat USC last year for the first time since 1960. So they've been pretty good. I mean, and the Beavs maybe during that time has been pretty bad. But the idea is that, USC is a juggernaut and you got to respect them. Washington had their run. They were awesome. That was the team that we really looked up to as trying to get on their level. And it felt like once we got on their level, we, could maybe, hold our heads a little higher in the Pacific Northwest. Washington State was good here and there. They put out some quality players and had a couple Rose Bowls in the 90s. And Cal early on, you go back in the 20s, Cal was awesome. Back in the original times of the sport. Stanford's had, of course, their run. They've had some great players down there at Stanford. But yeah, UCLA has had a great run. And then Arizona State, they came in later. They've had some interesting times. It feels like they've never really had the offense and the defense at the same time. They either an offensive school or a defensive school. I mean, remember Dick Tomey's defense was one of the best in the country, but their offense really couldn't score them that well, and they never really got there. And then Utah and Colorado. Colorado's had their time in the sun, and then Utah. I was really impressed with how they played at the end of the year last year. Of course, Oregon, we were disappointed with how the Ducks played, but those last two games against Utah. But you got to tip the cap to Utah. I mean, they came out and steamrolled. And so I really like what Kyle Whittingham's doing. And I think that Utah going into next year is probably the team to beat in the South. I know everybody's excited about USC and Lincoln Riley, but I think it's going to be a great one next year to think about Lincoln Riley jumping into a conference that I don't think they're going to be in any way, shape, or form the red carpet rolled out for them. I think everybody's going to be gunning for USC because everybody wants to beat USC. Just like you said, they're the clear number one in the conference historically and every year, basically.
Yeah, Lincoln Riley's on campus. He's brought a quarterback in Caleb Williams and his top receiver at Oklahoma and Mario Williams. The defense was a disaster last year, and the roster is only slightly better from all tangible aspects. But if you look, people are already projecting USC is going to win the Pac-12, contend for a playoff spot. Now, that might be a little bit heavy, but Lincoln Riley has certainly brought optimism back to USC, and I don't think it's smoke and mirrors. I think it's tangible. Sure. He's going to upgrade the program significantly, but I don't quite know if they've got it in them this year. That defense is going to have to be so much incredibly better than they were last year.
And, the rest of the conference, I think, is continuing to improve as well. I think Arizona will be better. I think Arizona State's in a really tough situation. They're kind of in a tailspin. But I think UCLA is going to be better. I think, they bring back DTR. Chip comes back on the and they refocused a little bit. They've reshuffled the defense. So I think USC is going to have their hands full. I do think they're going to be better. By year 2 or 3, I would expect them to be right there knocking on the door for the Pac-12 championship and then be able to pretty much do that every year. I mean, if they get their recruiting right and they get their development right, watch out. That's been their problem, is that they've still been able to recruit at a high level. They just weren't developing these guys really. I mean, the graph to look at is how many guys USC puts into the pros. Historically, it was always just stacked. And then during this last part of Clay Helton's run, those numbers went down. And you could see it on the field. So USC became a little more pedestrian. I mean, back in the day, man, they were just absolutely a machine. I mean, and then it got rebuilt during that Reggie Bush era where nobody could touch them either. But, I'm talking back in the 70s and 80s, 90s. Those guys were really doing some work at USC.